What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So we'll be discussing on how to pick between a bar chart and a funnel chart. So these are two charts that most data analysts tend to confuse which one to pick. So we'll be looking at the scenarios when each of these charts can be used to effectively represent your data. So without wasting so much time, let's get straight to the video. Do you ever find yourself in a situation whereby you're finding it difficult to choose between a bar chart and a funnel chart? So, like I said, I think most people are confusing the use case of a bar chart and that of a funnel chart. So, most people tend to think a funnel chart is a direct replacement or substitution for a bar chart. But then, even though they look similar, or you think you can just use the funnel chart exactly the way you can use the bar chart, okay, that is not entirely correct, because a funnel chart has use cases where it is effective, where it will effectively represent your data and give clarity to the data you're showing. So remember, the purpose of visualizing your data is just to make sure your audience find it very easy to understand your data without you saying nothing, or you say little to nothing or explanation to them. So basically, before we dive into this video, I'll start by trying to explain what data visualization is. So data visualization is just basically graphical representation of your data. So you're just taking the data from numbers and then you're transforming it into something like this. So you'll find out that rather than looking at boring table with numbers or text, it is much more easier to look at a visualization and quickly understand or get the idea of what's happening with that data. Just generally, graphical representation of data or visualization is much more intuitive to people, and then also there are people that get easily lost in the numbers, or some people find table to be very difficult to read and understand. But with visualization, it makes all this easy. Then that brings us to the second stage, effective data visualization. So I'm thinking probably I'll make this into a series where I'll just talk about effective ways of visualizing your data, when to use some charts, how to use them, the best use cases. But then let's see how it goes. So for today, we'll be looking at a bar chart versus a funnel chart. So bar charts generally, bar charts are used to compare the differences in categories, basically with categorical data. So bar charts are used to compare the differences in categorical data. So there are two kinds of bar charts. There's the horizontal bar chart and there's the vertical bar chart. So what is the difference? For the vertical bar charts, I think that's the most common one. Vertical bar charts, you can just use it when you have categories you want to compare. The order doesn't really matter. It does not necessarily have to be ordinal data, but it makes a whole lot more sense when it is ordinal data. Say maybe a time series, for instance. You want to look at sales over time. You want to compare the differences in the different months. So that is where you can use the vertical bar chart. You just compare the difference in probably revenue for each month. So it's very effective, very effective when you have such data. It can effectively represent that data and pass your message across, because your audience can easily spot the months where it is better and the months where revenue is less. Then how do you know which bar chart to pick between the horizontal and the vertical? So I just talked about the vertical bar chart now. So for the horizontal bar chart, mostly when the names of your category are too long, mostly when the names of your category are just too long. So the horizontal bar chart is very effective in this case, because due to the way it is oriented, there's a lot more space for your categories to show the names completely. Because with the vertical bar charts, if the categories are too many or the names of the categories are too long, depending on the space you have on the visual, it might not be enough to show these names. or you start seeing the names going in diagonal direction. So trust me, you don't want to make your stakeholders or your CEO or your employer, you don't want to make them start tilting their head this way or this way just so they can read what you have in your chart. So when you have such scenario, it's just better to just switch over to the horizontal bar chart. That way you see that the names on your categories, they are just appearing completely without the name bending in any funny direction. Then there's another thing to also have in mind when you want to use the horizontal bar chart. So it's also best used for the cases of ranking. So what do I mean by that? Maybe you want to look at the top performers, the bottom performers. When you have scenarios like top 5, top 10, bottom 5, bottom 10. So when you have them arranged in that format, it makes a whole lot more sense compared to when you're visualizing top 10 or top 5 or bottom 10 or bottom 5, compared to when you're visualizing it on a vertical bar chart. It doesn't really pass the message across effectively. So if you look at these two charts here now, this is both top 5 cities by revenue. You will see that looking at the horizontal bar chart, it makes a whole lot more sense. It makes it easier to understand because you tend to quickly get the idea of the order, you quickly get the idea of the ranking from the horizontal bar chart. So for the case of top performers, bottom performers, a horizontal bar chart is very, very, very effective. Then that's for the bar charts. So we'll talk about the funnel chart now. So like I said, most data analysts, we tend to misinterpret or misuse the funnel chart. So a funnel chart is not a direct substitution for a bar chart. Yes, you can say that the funnel chart is used to compare the values in categories. You probably can say that, but not just any category. This is a category that has a well-defined stage, more like a process. So for instance, if you look at Uber, for instance, Uber will have a very, very structured set of stage a customer will go through. So comparing the number of customers that go through each stage, you can use the funnel chart to compare the difference in the number of customers in each stage. So that is why you see that the funnel chart has the funnel shape, because the values in each stage are dropping. So that is because these stages generally, it is expected that the values will always go down as you progress to each stage. So back to the Uber example. So a typical scenario like this, I'm guessing the very first stage in the Uber process would be that you download their app. So let's think of this scenario. Maybe 1,000 users downloads their app from the app store or from the Play Store. 1,000 users downloads their app. So that's the first stage in that process. Then the second stage is going to be signing up on their app. So out of these 1,000 users that signed up on the app, you might see about 200 users dropping off by the time it gets to the sign up stage. For whatever reason, they probably just uninstall the app and end up not signing up. So 1,000 users downloaded the app, and 800 users get to the second stage of sign up. So then the third stage might be say the customer requesting a ride on the app. Just like the issue with the sign up stage, probably not all users will end up requesting a ride. So maybe after sign up, they might just drop off, they might just uninstall the app for whatever reason. They don't request a ride. Not all the customers rather request a ride. So maybe the step they have to take is not very clear, or just it could be any reason at all. But definitely, not all 800 users that signed up is going to request a ride. So let's say maybe 500 users end up requesting a ride. So on this third stage, you'll see that we've already lost about 50% of the customers that downloaded the app. So we lost half already. After requesting a ride, the last stage is probably taking the ride and then paying for the ride. Out of this 500 that requested a ride, maybe just 400 ended up taking the ride and paying for the ride. So maybe the 100 that dropped off again, it still could be for whatever reason. Maybe they cancelled the ride, or the ride was too expensive. It could be anything at all. So they end up not taking the ride or paying for the ride. So you see now there's a stage. The first stage we had was the download stage. The second stage we had was the sign up stage. The third stage we had was requesting a ride. And the fourth stage was taking the ride and then paying for the ride. So we had 1,000 users at the beginning, but at the end we had just 400 users. In a case like this, where you have a process, a well-structured process that has different stages, and these stages, it is followed in a sequential order. You can't jump from stage 1 to stage 3. No, you have to follow it: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So when you have such scenario, when you have such data, that is when you know the effective way to visualize the differences in each category or each stage is going to be a funnel chart. So that's the best use case for a funnel chart. Not a direct substitution for the bar chart. Please let us save the funnel charts. Let's stop misusing the funnel chart. Let's start using the funnel chart effectively. Let's use it to represent the right kind of data, and then that goes the same for our bar chart as well. So let's pick the right bar chart. We have two options: the horizontal bar chart and the vertical bar chart. So let's pick them rightly. Let's effectively visualize our data. Then one more thing before we go. Then here is a general advice for both kinds of charts, whether it is the bar chart or the funnel chart. Just let's try not to mix colors too much. There's no point in separating the different categories you have, be it a bar chart or a funnel chart. There's no point in separating the different categories you have with colors. It is not actually necessary, because the moment you start separating them with colors, then there's a need for legend. And then when you have a legend, it means your audience have to look back and forth, look at the legend, look at the category. Okay, this color represents this category, this color represents this category. And some people have a very short attention span, and then in the process of looking at the legend and looking at the visual, they probably might miss out on the important information while you're presenting, or they end up having to go back and forth with the legend and the category before they understand what they're looking for. So you don't have to always mix colors. So long as the names of your categories are clearly written and clearly stated, there's no need to use color, whether it's a bar chart or a funnel chart. A single color for all of them is enough. There's no need to mix too many colors, trust me. And it's also going to make your work look much more neat as compared to when you're mixing colors everywhere. I know there's this urge and temptation to just mix up the colors, feel like a designer, but actually it's not necessary. Remember, this chart is not for you. So maybe if it's your personal visualization, maybe it's fine, but this chart is for your stakeholders. You want to make it in a way that they can quickly look at the chart and quickly draw insights from the chart, and then use this insight to make an informed decision. So we don't want to start confusing our stakeholders. So always have that in mind. There's no need to mix colors if you don't have to. So long as your category names are clearly written and clearly stated on the visual, there's no need to mix colors or use different colors for each categories. You can drop your questions in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. And then if you have any suggestion or anything you would like to know about data analysis, please feel free to drop it in the comment section. So thank you for watching. Please do well to like and subscribe. We'll try to drop a video every week where I share my knowledge, my experience, my favorite data tools, tips and tricks. So do well to like this video and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.